booktube, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you the 8 books that I got in July 2019. I'm going to tell you a sentence or two about each one, and then I'm going to tell you why I have them, because sometimes the synopsis doesn't explain why the book has come onto my shelves. So let's go. This hopefully will be a short video, although sometimes I say that and then the video becomes 20 minutes long and I have to try to edit myself. The first 2 books I have already shown you in a vlog somewhere, but I'll show them to you again. I bought this one at Barnes & Noble for $5. This is Difficult Women by Roxane. This is a short story collection, and I remember reading the first story while I was sitting in the bookstore and being completely arrested by it and thinking that I was going to get back to this collection during July. It hasn't happened, so I've taken it off my TBR, although it wasn't officially on there. I'll read this at some point. The stories are about women and the experiences that they've had and how those things that they've lived through have shaped them. The first story was about 2 sisters who were abused, I think sexually, when they were children, and about how that loss of innocence has shaped the romantic relationships that they have chosen to be part of now that they've become adults, and how the bond between these 2 sisters pervades, how it supersedes all the other things that happen just because of their shared experience, their shared, their shared trauma. So I picked this one up because I remember when this was being hyped on booktube, and I thought about reading it back then and I never got to it, and seeing it for $5 in the bookstore made it almost irresistible. The other book that I bought for $5 in that same trip was Idaho by Ruskovich, and this one I didn't know too much about, but I remember that Sean the Book Maniac raved about this book, and so I wanted to pick it up. And this is about a couple who in their later years, I think the husband's memory is fading, and so the wife is trying to understand some things about her husband's past, about the relationship that he had with his previous wife and his daughter, and trying to understand, I suppose, some act that led to the demise of that marriage and the demise of that family. And so the novel is told in split perspectives. We read from the current wife and from the daughter who was involved in some way in the demise of that relationship. I don't know exactly what happened, if there was a crime that ended the family dynamic, I'm not sure, but I will be reading this at some point, and man, this cover is beautiful. That's Idaho. I have a couple of books that I bought that I've already read, but I'm going to be rereading at some point. The first one is Alice Walker's The Color Purple. This is her Pulitzer Prize winning novel. And I know that Alice Walker has written other books, but this is the only thing that I've read from her. And somehow this is the only book that I hear people talk about when they mention this author's name. I read this, might have been last year, it might have been the year before. I read this during Black History Month because it's such a popular book on the Black history spectrum. Whenever you see book lists in February, somehow this book always comes up. And it's a portrayal of 2 sisters again, and the bond that links them, even though they've been abused and they've been separated by physical distance but also emotional distance. The parents have tried to drive a wedge between these 2 sisters, but even though they're limited by physical space, they write and correspond with each other in some way, even if time and circumstances just seems to try to keep these 2 women apart. And the main character in this one, well, the book itself is epistolary format, and for a lot of the novel we get this main character, Celie, writing letters to God because she doesn't feel comfortable expressing herself to anyone else who's in her physical space. And through her letters we see the violence and the prejudice and the extreme poverty that she lives through, but also witness the strength of character that she displays and the strong desire that she has for life and for just making it because of her relationship with God and how she sees herself in this world. Strong book. I've read it before. I don't know when I'll reread it, but it feels like a book that I should own, and I bought it this month because I was going to be reading this with one of my students that I'm tutoring, and he completed his assignment without us having really discussed it, so I didn't have to read it this time. But I'm sure I'll reread this again at some point. That's The Color Purple. Another book that I bought that I have already read but will be rereading later this year is Salman Rushdie's Midnight's Children. This one's a little bit more difficult to explain in just a couple of sentences, but it is a metaphoric representation of India and its quest for independence and some of the struggles for recognition from the British Empire after it became independent. And it is likened to the life of one young man, but also to a group of children who are born at the same time that India receives its independence. And the twists and turns of their life represents the changes and the fluctuations in India's economy. And it's also the story of a family. And so on both levels, both on the human perspective but also on the political spectrum, this book speaks a lot about change and how people and countries have to be resilient in order to maintain who they are. I hope I said all of what I needed to say in that couple of sentences. But yeah, Salman Rushdie's Midnight's Children, this is a Booker Prize winner. It also won the 25th anniversary Best of the Booker Prize. So this is a book that I wanted to own, not just because I'm collecting Man Booker winners, but when it comes to collecting, if you have a Booker collection, I feel like this book should be on it just because it won the prize multiple times. The next book that I bought was another prize-winning novel, and this one was The Land of Green Plums by Herta Muller, and I bought this one to participate in Britta Bowler's Noble Women Read Along. Herta Muller won the Nobel Prize, I don't remember when, but I read a book by her previously. This is not my first time reading from her. I read Fox Was Ever the Hunter, which was a more dystopic look at, well, Herta Muller in general writes about her experience living in Romania during the time of the Ceausescu regime. And in this book, we follow a group of young people who are also living through that experience of being alive and ambitious during a period of dictatorship, and how the political spectrum, how the political environment affects them as individuals, but also affects their desire to be and want to become more than their circumstances. The last book that I bought myself this month was another book that I bought to read with one of the students that I'm tutoring in the summer, and this is A Little History of the World by E.H. Gombrich. This is exactly what it says. It is a little history of the world broken up into stories about individual civilizations. The author looks at the establishment of individual civilizations and cultures and political empires and regimes, how they were established, how they plateaued, and how they either fell or were overthrown by a competing empire. And I enjoy the look that he gives on the continuity and the change and the encounters between these competing civilizations and cultures. And so I had to read this because of work, but I'm enjoying reading it as well for my own personal development, my own personal understanding and appreciation of the history of the world. And the last two are books that I got from the publisher in order to review. The first one is State of Lies by Siri Mitchell. This is an arc that I got from Thomas Nelson, and I need to read and review this at the end of August, so I haven't read it yet. So I'm going to read you the synopsis because I'm not familiar with what the book is about. State of Lies by Siri Mitchell. The secrets of those closest to us can be the most dangerous of all. Months after her husband Sean is killed by a hit-and-run driver, physicist Georgie Brennan discovers he lied to her about where he had been going that day. A cryptic notebook, a missing computer, and strange noises under her house soon have her questioning everything she thought she knew. The reason that I accepted the offer to read and review this book was because the main character is a female physicist. We don't see too many books featuring female scientists, but even less so female physicists. So whatever else about this book, I already like the fact that our main character seems to be a woman in science and technology and engineering. I'm always here for that. And then the last book is a finished copy, Michael French, young adult fiction. The title is arresting to me. It is The Beginner's Guide to Winning an Election. In 2025, so this novel is set in the future, in 2025, the youthification of democracy has inspired younger candidates to challenge the ineffective and dishonest gray hairs in Congress. Running for student body president at an Indiana high school in 2025, political novice Britt Kittredge takes on incumbent Matthew Boltanski, who with help from a mystery backer already has his eyes set on Washington. Brit gains courage and insights from a wise history teacher on how to win, but ultimately finds a maze of deceit and corruption in her school. Is exposing the truth enough to win the election? So there are a few things in here that make me want to read this book. Number one, that there is a history teacher who seems to be maybe some kind of a hero. My husband is a history teacher. And the fact that this is about a female politician. Okay, so it's high school politics, but it seems like this is going to transcend high school politics and discuss political corruption on a bigger scale. And so I'm looking forward to that. And I really like this cover. I feel like this, as kind of maybe an indie published book, I feel like this is a really attractive cover that I'd like to have. I'm hoping that I love it so that I can display it proudly on my shelves and tell you guys all about it. I'm also going to be reviewing this one in August, so you'll hear my thoughts about it very soon. And it's blurbed by Bill Richardson, former member of Congress. So I'm looking forward to hearing whether I agree with these politicians about how great this book is. So these are the 8 books that I got in July. Some of them are going to go on my shelves right now just to be stored, and a couple of them are going to be in my TBR video that I'm going to be filming next. So thanks for watching this video. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more. Let's talk in the comments. I'd love to hear what book you got in July that you're most excited to own. If I had to say one book from this entire collection that I'm happiest to have my own copy finally, is Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie. I've read it twice now from the library, and I got a really pretty copy from the library. Actually, it's the same edition as this one, and I just felt like I wanted it on my shelves. I mean, it's a great book. I loved reading it last year, and yeah, if there's one book that I'm most excited to own, it's that one. As books that I'm probably most excited to read, I can't choose. I want to read them all. Thanks for watching this video. Let's talk in the comments. I'd love to hear your take on your favorite books. So we'll talk down there, and until next time, happy reading. Bye.